I am going to tell you a story from China next. This story is from China, and there's a book of it. There's a book of this. It says it's called The Man Who Loved Dragons. It's a Chinese folk tale retold by Norm Brecke. Norm Brecke, he must be a pretty clever fella to have put together this book of this folk tale. What do you think? Oh, wait, that's me. That's me. Yeah. And it was illustrated by Trish Anderson. Now, Trish Anderson, I mean, I wrote the book, but she drew all these pictures, and they're pretty awesome. They are awesome, awesome, awesome. You guys want to see the dragon in this? I'll show you when I'm done. No, so we can compare and contrast, right? You'll have the picture in your mind of what you think the dragon looks like, and then you'll see what Trish Anderson thought the dragon looked like. And see, that's why storytelling is more special sometimes than reading a book. Because you make the pictures in your mind. So here we go. Are you ready? It's going to be, you get buckle in, okay? You get buckled in. Okay, here we go. Once there was a man who loved dragons. He loved dragons. He had all kinds of dragon gear. All those things that you can get at the store that have dragons on them. He had dragon shirts on the back. He had dragon pants, little dragons all around the pants. He had dragon hats. He had dragon shoes. Instead of a Nike stripe on the side, it had a dragon. He had, what else did he have? Give me a couple of suggestions. What? He had dragon underwear. That was going to be my last one. You're right. He had dragon, yes. Face paint. He sure did. He had some of those little pet tattoo things, but he liked to change them all the time. He had boy in blue in the back. Thank you. Dragon colored hair. Yeah, I guess sometimes stripes and stuff like that. Thank you for helping. Yes, one more thing. Khaki socks. He had all kinds of, he had dragon paintings on the wall. He had dragon carpets. He had everything that you could think of, all kinds of things all over the house. After a while, all the people at the stores knew that he would buy anything with a dragon on it, and they would, if they had, say, a cup that was sitting on the shelf, getting dust, being old, somebody would just put a sticker of dragon on it, boom, and he would buy it. So you can imagine that people, word passed from person to 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 person until one day 2 men were walking up over a mountainside. They were walking along, and the one guy said to the other one, he says, "Hey, have you heard about that guy that loves dragons?" He goes, "No, I haven't heard of the guy that likes dragons." He goes, "Well, yeah, he'll buy anything with a dragon on it." "Well, that's kind of neat." "Well, I don't know. I think it's kind of crazy. I mean, isn't it crazy? He uses dragon stuff all the time." No, to each his own, you know. Everybody collects something. Dragons, that seems a good thing. And they kept walking and went right over the mountain. But what they didn't know was that behind a tree, behind a big giant rock, was a cave. And in that cave was a real live, what do you think? Dragon, that's right. And she said, "Oh, somebody loves me. I wish I could meet somebody that would just love me someday. Usually when people see me, they run screaming, 'Ah, a dragon! Save me!' But this man will love me, I hope." So when it got dark outside, she came out and she unfurled her wings and started to fly in the dark, over the mountain, over trees, over lakes, over rivers, over huge cities, until she came to the tiny town where the man who loved dragons lived. But she had a problem. She didn't know the address. But she flew up and down the streets until she spotted a clue. And there was a mailbox that looked just like a, what do you think? So she got into the yard, and it was a tiny yard. Now, she wasn't one of those dragons that just crashed everything. She was polite, and so she got into the yard, and she couldn't fit in the front yard, so she put her body around the side yard, and her tail was at the back door, and her head was at the front. And then she had to knock on the door with her nose. She was so big. Plus, she had no hands, so she went. So, and you can do this if you want. You take your hand, and you just knock your nose on it softly. But inside the house, the man who loved dragons was in bed, and what he heard was boom, boom, boom. And without hurting your neighbor, could you do that? Boom, boom, boom. Well, he said, I must have a very big visitor. And so he took his bedspread that had dragons on it, pulled it down. Of course, he had on his dragon pajamas, right? And he had dragon sheets. He put on his slippers that had on the side. He walked across the carpet that had he went to the front door that the knob looked just like the head of he opened up the door, and there, right in front of him, was a great, big, huge eyeball. And he looked around that eyeball, and there were scales, and then there were teeth, and there were horns, and he went, ah, it's a dragon! And he ran to the back door. Save me! He opened up the back door, and there was the tail of the dragon with the spikes on it. And he went, ah, a dragon! He ran to the side door, opened up the side door, and there was the side of the dragon with all of the scales. And he went, ah, a dragon! He ran through the house, jumped on his bed, and vaulted out the window and ran all the way into town, yelling, help me! It's a dragon! After that day, he was not known as the man who loved dragons anymore. He was known as the man that liked what dragons looked like. That's the end.